Okay, Grace, you're
Yep.
set? Okay. Good evening, welcome to the Monday, October 6th, Hartland Selectboard meeting. It is 5:30. The first order of our business tonight are the minutes. We have 2 minutes from September the 15th, the regular minutes and the executive session. I would entertain a motion to accept those.
So moved.
Thank you, Tom. A second.
A second.
Thank you, Trace. Okay. Any discussion? Cheyenne, I'd like to clarify item VI 6. There's a sentence, the town plan is scheduled for a public hearing on October the 22nd. It will be posted in the Valley News. I'd like it to be say the hearing, to make that clear that no one wants to get it. And the next sentence, Friday was tax sale. We should insert delinquent tax sale, so clarify that. Any other issues? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Cheyenne. Next item are the orders or accounts payable through today, October the 6th. Again, I would entertain a motion to accept those.
So moved.
Thanks, Todd. A second.
Second.
Thank you, Tom. I see we've got the elevator key there, and thank you. I was having nightmares on Saturday evening, but I talked to Jeffrey and Hamilton, and you gave the key to them.
The key and an overview of how to use it.
Okay. We had almost 100 people involved on Sunday afternoon, and some of them were, I'm sure, going to use the elevator. So I'd like to finish the request to get directions and some sort of like key mounted by the door saying emergency. Just background, this is the key to use in emergencies to get into the elevator. It doesn't help when the elevator is stuck between floors, which we've also had recent issues with.
So John, the consulting services on page 5 for the listers.
Yep.
Is that sort of a monthly, or is that sort of a time and material?
This is Doug Linnell, who's working on updating the tax map. Yep.
Okay. Yep.
That's Doug.
Free correspondence is a one-time annual payment.
Correct. I'm sorry, annual payment for the next
Then,
foreseeable future.
Can't find it.
John, on page 9, there's a V-Trans grant. Why are we paying $1,500?
That's our portion of that grant to Two Rivers.
Okay.
We knew that going in. That's it.
Okay.
They largely manage the grant for us.
And the library electric bill, is that normal?
That is normal. It is something that is every month is shockingly high, and we cannot quite put a finger on why it is that way. Yes.
Is there a dehumidifier again there?
They run a dehumidifier in the basement, but it does not explain how high that bill is.
What was it?
The Green Mountain Power bill is
$827.59
Per month.
for the month.
the library.
And it's only open.
Less than 40 hours a week. In contrast, Dave and Hall's electric bill is 150.
Can we get,
Can we get an electrician in there to get?
An electrician, yeah, so this is one of those things that every time we see the bill, it goes to the top of the list and then everything else happens and it kind of falls back down. But
Yeah.
we should look at their energy audit. We
Is it
should,
electric heat or is it?
that's a good question. I don't know off the top of my head. I
Bless you.
don't think so.
But that wouldn't explain the summer.
It wouldn't explain this, and they're not running, excessive amounts of window air units or anything like that either. So yes, we will continue to figure out why that is that way.
Here's one question on the school payment.
Yep,
So 4.5 million,
half the payment.
half payment, which would be 9 million.
Yeah.
But I thought their budget was closer to 11.
So this is after the state submits their paperwork to us, this is what we are tasked with paying. So, we wait for the state to send us paperwork with that payment amount on there. So however that calculation happens in Montpelier before it comes here, I can't speak to.
Okay. And they, whenever I see Sable and Sons, I get sweat.
Yep, so this was...
What's this one for?
The larger of the
Yeah.
three Sable and Sons was the truck went in for an inspection, and they noted a handful of things in the inspection. Burned out light bulbs, there was some brake work that needed to be done. So it's all related to the inspection, but
Okay.
it passed inspection, it's back on the road.
Wasn't it? Yeah, sure.
It was not in a ditch, it was not broken down, there was no towing involved.
I think that's the truck I want to replace.
Yeah, this is the other 10-wheeler, the older 10-wheeler. Yeah.
And the last question I had is, and I see that Sheriff Palmer's here, so the monthly charge, is that what we basically have budgeted?
For the Windsor
Per
County?
month?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
okay, yep.
That is correct.
That's all I, okay, any additional comments? All in favor of accepting the warrants as proposed, say aye. Next item, are there any adjustments to the agenda? I don't know any. Public comments, are there any public comments this evening? Anything online?
No comments online, nope.
Okay. Moving on to old business. We have in our packets some information about Town Highway 8. If folks recall, there was some confusion about the ownership of the Class 4 section of the road. John, will you step us through your findings with
Yep.
our attorney as well as the paperwork that we can?
So at the last meeting, there was a request by the board to follow up with the attorney to get a little bit more information. So as we discussed previously, after you turn the corner, when the road becomes a Class 4 town road, the road itself, the ground itself is owned by one of the abutting property owners. The town owns a right-of-way over top of that. Somewhat atypical. Normally the right-of-way is kind of split between the two property owners on either side of what would be the road. In this case, the way the road layout works, it's all on one property owner's land. And you can, as you can see in this, this is a summary of the emails that I had with Jim Barlow, who's the town attorney. Essentially, it's a public right-of-way. There's no harm in maintaining and continuing the way it currently is. If the town were to vote to give up that section of Class 4 road and make it a legal trail or a private road, state law states that everybody down the road that has access to the road would continue to have legal access to their property.
Okay.
So in the second sheet, which was in your packet, was the results, the write-up from a public hearing that was held in 2021 when this came up previously for discussion. At the time, there was significant community feedback regarding the maintaining the ownership of the Class 4 road. And this is the summary of that decision that went in the town records.
The only reason this has come up is because we renamed the road.
We renamed
It came up as a,
it came up as a part of renaming Schroeder Road. Yes.
but there's really, it sounds like based on the way things stand today, it's not unusual, there's no action.
There is no action that is needed right now. I have concern that if there is additional development down what is now the Class 4 section of that road, we would need to upgrade that road to likely a class 3 road, because there's already 2 driveways. If there's 1 to 2 more, we don't maintain that section we don't plow it in the winter, we don't grade it, we don't put material down there. So that would add expense to the town in the future, not in terms of bringing it up to class 3 standards, but in terms of kind of ownership and maintenance of it in the future. So we have an opportunity here to avoid that future discussion. That may or may not happen. There has been a subdivision of that land, so.
So, I mean, on the last one that we looked at, we chose not to take any action. And I think what we chose to do is come up with a more standard highway and culvert policy,
right,
which I think is really what our action item should be.
Right.
That's correct. Jim, let me just observe that we had correspondence from the Ashline saying they own the road. So
they own the land.
Well, they use the word road. So I think what we need to do is to make sure, John, you reach out to the Ashlines and say the ownership of the road continues, but the town exercises the right of way.
We own the right of way up over the land, right?
Okay. Just my personal feeling is that we went through this before. The town certainly indicated, let's keep it for the points that were outlined. So I don't know if we need an action, if really nothing's changed other than we need to communicate.
Just communicate that we have not submitted the paperwork on renaming Schroeder Road yet, because it's a whole lot of work for folks who live on a road where the road changes name. So we didn't want to do that to residents if the select board's then going to then give up that section of class 4 road. So if we take no action tonight, we will, process that road name change for everybody who lives on both the class 3 and class 4 sections of what is now Schroeder Road.
Just to clarify, we're doing something a little bit different tonight. We're actually doing it correctly, I believe. We were signing the warrants before we passed the warrants, and now we passed them, we have to sign them, so we're passing it along. So, okay, any other questions on town highway 8?
I just want to go back to the statement you made. There's been a subdivision and it may require us to maintain the road, or we could discontinue it.
If there is future development down what is now the class 4 section of the road,
Right.
there would be the potential for 1 to what I can envision is 2 more driveways, depending on what the property owners choose to do. They could do nothing. With that many driveways off of a class 4 road, it potentially behoove the town to have an updated highway and culvert policy. At that time, we would have to we would need to start doing winter and summer maintenance on that road if it becomes a class 3 section of town highway.
I mean, you do have the precedent on Quechee Road. We're halfway up.
Right.
It changes from 3 to 4, and there are driveways further up.
Right.
It's not that precedent doesn't exist.
Right. It would, without having the highway policy in front of me, I suspect it would be incumbent on the property owners to bring the road up to class 3 standards. So the cost of bringing it up to a class 3 road.
Well, Jenny Road is there. They need to maintain it. So
Right.
they plow it.
Yeah, I think there's one house past that.
But it's the rounds and then the house further up.
Are you saying that is there any rules that indicate that if there's more houses built on the road that we need to maintain it? Because we just went through this with Bird Hill.
Right, and that's part of the conversation here, is that we didn't ever finalize the private road policy. That's a part of the highway policy as well. So if we stick a number on there, right, if there's X number of houses on a private road.
And we decide that's a number that triggers us to plow and widen and maintain the road.
Correct.
Then we have to deal with other roads that have more than X amount of houses on them.
Potentially, but if we do nothing, which I think is what the suggestion is, and we wait to see what happens, it could be that the subdivision that exists there doesn't get developed, and it remains a class 4 road, and it's fine.
I think, I'm good, right? We gotta fix our policy, we gotta rework the policy, make sure it's logical.
Yeah, we have it
And if
under,
problems come up down the road, we can forward it.
absolutely correct, Jim. And we keep pushing it off under future agenda items.
Yeah, there's a couple there that we'll talk about later that are gonna be important.
Okay, moving on, we have an open meeting law training that's coming this fall, which is going to be for all commissions, ourselves and some employees, I believe.
Boards, commissions, employees. So there was a couple of dates that proposed by the attorney. It would likely not be, it would be in the next 2 weeks or so. It will not be at a regularly scheduled select board meeting, planning commission or conservation commission meeting, or board of trustees, fire department, whomever is subject to open meeting law. It's inevitable that no date is going to work best for everybody. So what I will do is find a date that's open on the calendar that we can use the space here and confirm with Jim Barlow, who will be providing the training, and get everything going there.
Yeah, doesn't the LCT have standard training that you can?
VLCT, so it does, it's kind of incumbent on those who, to do it themselves. And there's a kind of a PowerPoint packet that you can go through, but there's no ability to interact with it. You can't ask him questions because there's some nuance to open meeting laws. So I think it's worth the relatively low cost here to bring somebody in to do the training for us. So that will be, you'll see a date coming out soon on that.
Okay, moving on to new business, we have Sheriff Palmer with us, and Brian, you want to come forward and give us the purpose of this is our every period, quarterly, every few months.
You can bring the chair up a little bit.
To just talk about what Hartland itself and how what's happening within town. And Brian has supplied us with an incident report that goes from the beginning of August to somewhat current.
Yeah, so I don't know exactly what you guys haven't seen it in a while, but okay, you're talking about what comes with our normal bills.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll get to reports. A lot going on in this small town, as you probably know. I think it's been good as Vermont kind of evolves and changes, and maybe not always exactly in the way we'd like it. I think it's been good to have more of a regular presence in town. We've certainly seen a lot of stuff. And just, as we've got to kind of know the town and have a good idea of kind of what you're looking for and whatnot, I think we've been able to kind of adapt, I think, to what Hartland's kind of looking for. We've done, it's very important to me, and I think to a lot of you, to really kind of connect with the town folk and be there and be responsive. So we've had a lot of different scenarios where that's happened. A few months back, I ended up driving an ambulance, for Woodstock ambulance. Somebody had a pretty serious issue on Route 12, and myself and one of my guys, Hunter, showed up, and we hopped in and helped on the medical call and drove the ambulance for him because they only had 2 medics on the scene. So I think that's been super important. Just today, actually, Hunter and I went to Rockwood Lane and Rockwood Road out there in North Hartland, which ended up really being a mental health call. A guy was broke down with he just really needs some help. So we're able to kind of resolve that. We're seeing everything. I know we get a ton of complaints about speeding. We try to work on that the best we can. We get a lot of traffic stops in there. There's been a couple houses that doing a lot of business that I don't think we want in town, certainly not permitted, so to speak. We've been focusing on that, kind of trying to shut that down. as much as possible, and working with our partners with state police. So just, all sorts of stuff, I can't remember if it was before or after I come back from training, but, we had an issue at the library. Somebody showing up with a gun and kind of being seen, and I think we were able to respond to that and kind of smooth things over and make everybody feel safe. And we actually had one of our deputies do some training for the library on how to respond to some critical incidents and stuff. So the DUI enforcement stuff has been pretty important to us. We've seen a few of those. I think since January we've had 8 or 9 DUIs. And that's. But if you wanted people hanging out in town, we felt we'd been rides down Springfield. So I always give them your number, Trace, when they're looking for bail. So if I get any numbers when you're calling. Yeah, some serious, pretty serious domestic issues, some guns involved and stuff a couple months back. And then I think just being responsive to Hartland John's.
Right. I'll chime in. We've had a couple of issues, some relatively time-sensitive concerns that have come up. We've had a couple of burn ban violations in the past few weeks, which are pretty serious given how dry it is, and the sheriff's office has been very responsive to kind of popping out to making sure that those fires get put out. Again, I think it's working really well with the sheriff's office. They're very responsive to not only those kind of one-off incidents, but the larger, hey, we've gotten reports of speeding along Hartland Hill, for example, or wherever it might be, and doing some of those, requesting that they do some of those directed patrols over there. So, and you see them, and this is my 2 cents, you see them at Old Home Days. I suspect we'll see them again in a couple of weeks at Halloween for trick-or-treating in Three Corners. So doing that community policing, which is what the town wanted when we moved to a larger police presence a couple of years ago.
Great.
Yeah, I've been researching candy prices on Amazon, so I'm not getting burned again going to the BJ's last minute. So, yeah. Thoughts, questions?
Ryan, I'm very concerned as I look at the surrounding towns. Bethel, I was in a professional office getting my eyes examined, and that poor person had just had the state police and probably you guys up there in Royalton on that part. Can I just ask a generalized question? Did you get the wanted person and the suspicious person? Because I'm very aware of drugs going down in town that are related to some pretty serious characters. And without getting specific, I think you've been involved.
Yeah. I don't know exactly which suspicious or wanted person, but since January, I think wanted persons, we've had 8 or 9 of those calls. And suspicious, it depends what happens. Generally we try to get there. One the other day, somebody reached out to me. One of my problems is that maybe I'm a little too accessible, but it works, and folks reach out to me and say, hey, is anybody around? There's this sketchy car on the street. Well, he got kicked out of one of the drug houses and was kind of hanging out down the road. And we had somebody there pretty quickly, which is, it worked out pretty good for that. So I think it's important, and as we look further down the road here, we're about to kick off budget season, you figure out what you need to do policing wise. I've got an idea about it, but it's just not the Vermont I grew up in. And as much as we're trying to fix those problems, we just had to go remove a kid from home with DCF a couple of days ago. Parents involved in meth use and all this type of thing. So this is what we're dealing with right now. One of these houses we hit, I pulled a gun and some fentanyl and an ounce and a half of crack off the guy. And long story short, there's probably a lot more in the car that vandalized it now. So there's a fair amount of nefarious things are going on. I'm not trying to be doom and gloom, because there's a lot of great things going on in town.
What I'm saying to you, we're aware of that.
Yeah.
And what's happening, and I guess, all I can say, please keep the patrolling, please keep up the collaboration with the state police.
Yeah, Windsor's great, state police, like, depending on if it's way on the Hartford side, they'll swing down. But we've had a lot of good working together, collaboration. And, we're trying to handle the regular stuff, whether it's the parking complaints or the speeding, where we're trying to be very fair and balanced with that. But I think there's certainly times are changing, and we want to make sure that people don't think this is one of those places where you can just set up shop. I mean, that's what we're seeing as a whole in the state, where there's a lot of policing. We are seeing some disbursement of the kind of those major players. Weathersfield, certainly before we took over, was starting to be kind of a playground for people. And I just don't want to see that in Hartland, so we're trying to keep up as best we can with that.
Any questions?
No, appreciate that. Yeah,
I was gonna ask about our dirt roads. And I know that this probably already spread pretty thin, and we have a lot of dirt roads. And it's not just the speeding, it's the drugs that are on the dirt roads too, because you can see people passing.
Yeah, and then, some of the complaints, there's a lot. I guess there's a lot. We're trying to keep our eyes out on as many different places as we can. I came home, I actually did a Windsor Selectboard meeting the other night, by Zoom from my office, and I was coming through about, what would you say, about 7:30 at night? Mm-hmm. So I come up to Hartland Quechee Road, and there's some maniac with a cut-off shirt, bald cap, big black trucks, in the road yelling at me. I said, God, that guy looks pretty sketchy. He does. With beard, goatee.
You should arrest our road agent.
I saw a guy just like that last week up by me.
Yeah. But there's a car parked in the middle of Quechee Road. And I said, not naming any names, DJ, what the hell is going on here? And he was damn near run off the road. The car ran into him. The guy was 4 times the legal limit, right? And he waited on, it happened to be the night the state police had 2 major incidents going on. And he waited, he said, about 20 minutes. And I happened to be rolling through, and it just, we were there and we took care of it. And I mean, this guy was flat his tires, he was passed out on the wheel, He said, well, we're not gonna have him wake up and take off and kill somebody. So it's just some crazy things out there, and we're trying to be, we're doing the best we can. Keep an eye on all the different things.
Any additional questions?
No, nothing online.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thanks, Ryan. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
Okay,
Can I see your audit for a second?
Yes.
What's that? Can I see your audit for a second?
the next item, okay, moving on to the next item. It's a new 10-wheel truck, the replacement of an existing one. We have 2 quotes in our packet. One from ATG at Westminster and the second from Reed and Claremont. They are not real compatible because the Reed quote is a strip down, if I understand it, just a truck, no plow or warranty.
If you look at that quote on the back, the second page, it shows how much the Viking package is.
Right.
So the Viking package is the same on both. It
Okay.
should be the same on both quotes. The
And,
difference between the Reed truck and ATG is a different brand, and the ATG has a little bit more power. I think it is cheaper.
It's Slightly, so the Reed truck only came in at 179,440, and the Western Star from HEG is 175,822. So it's, the truck from HEG is, I guess, marginally cheaper, but at $175,000, a couple $1,000 isn't.
The one from ATG is the type we normally.
That's the type we usually go with, and we've also been dealing with that, with ATG for the past 10 years. We haven't had an international truck since probably 15 years ago. So we're getting a better trade-in value. The guy gives us, you know, he deals with a lot of towns around the area. Sells the most trucks in the Northeast for municipalities. So he gets a better price on the trucks.
So on the ATG, what's the standard warranty on a truck like that? What's the standard
I
warranty?
think we're doing 5 or 7 years.
Seven.
Seven.
It's what they quoted us as 7.
But 7 is an add-on. What's the standard?
I think what Jim is asking is what is the default warranty, because we're paying five grand for a 7-year
And
warranty.
the only reason I ask is, I don't remember what we bought a year or two ago, maybe longer. We bought something, and we're paying a significant amount for an extended warranty, but only like a year longer than the standard.
Right.
So that's why.
So what we bought last year was this basically. Might have been. We're buying the warranty because we try to replace them every 5 to 6 years. So we're buying enough warranty to cover our ownership of the truck.
Yeah. And you get a better resale.
If there's a warranty on it. So if we buy a 7-year warranty and we trade it in at 5 years.
Yeah, I guess my curiosity is, are we paying $15,000 for one? Or are we paying $15,000?
It might be for
like
2. I
3
think it's a 5-year is normal, and we paid for the 7.
We're paying the 7.
It's a 2-year, it's like a 1.5 year process to get the truck. So we'd be ordering this truck this week, and we won't see it in our shop for maybe next year at this time. If not, it'll be next winter.
When do you have to pay for it?
When we get the truck.
Yeah, when we get the truck. So we would have another year of the equipment transfer going into the equipment fund.
That's how much is it?
I think it was 235 is what we moved it up to this past year. Right. It essentially covers the cost of the truck. So right now, the equipment fund at the end of the fiscal year in the audit, the balance is 565. So that doesn't have.
Plus 230.
Right, would be plus 230, but we still have to pay for the backhoe out of that.
Which is.
Yeah, I was gonna say 150, 160.
The other thing is the truck that this would be replacing is, the other 10-wheeler we have, and that truck has the most miles on it. It's gonna have over 100,000 on it. Which is quite a lot for a municipality.
And these are gas trucks.
These are diesel, which it doesn't sound like much for a diesel motor, but I mean, it has a plow frame, it's plowing, dealing with salt and sand. You know, it's getting used pretty hard.
So one of you step through, when do we write a check? Do we write a check now and lock in the price for a year, or is it a down payment, or how does all this work come together?
We agree to this as it's written, and we signed this kind of purchase order. We wouldn't pay for it until we receive it, like BJ said, but we're agreeing to the price as we were quoted. This is, June 25th, 2025.
That's a fixed price.
It's a fixed price. There's not going to be a 2027 surcharge tacked onto it.
Well, with the recent announcement that trucks are now part of the new tariff.
And I think that Viking quote was before the tariffs, which they're going to give us that price. So that's the good thing, it could be 15, 20 grand more if we wait,
Okay.
So you need a motion for the ATG quote.
Correct. If that's the
If that's what we
if that's the selection of the board, right?
I'm still, this just feels like an act of faith for me. You know, I try to do all the add-ons to the international, but again, I couldn't compare the two price-wise, just because of the way the quote came in from Reed.
Yes, the retruck came in at, again, the retruck was essentially $3,500 more expensive than the Western Star from ATG, just for the truck only.
Right, but we don't know about their warranty packages or anything.
We don't know about their warranty packages.
But I am hearing that there's a strong preference for the Western Star over the International, just given the shop's familiar with that, and we would be able to sustain that on their own.
It's much easier to have the same vehicles or same company vehicles in your fleet to do oil changes and everything, instead of going here to get this filter, and here to get this, and everything just.
And it's cheaper if we take out the AC and the heat.
That's why they take the sleeves off their shirts.
Yeah.
We're saving money.
Yeah, exactly.
And ATG does maintenance as well?
Yep. They are, there's a shop in Lebanon, and then there's a shop in Westminster.
And it sounds like a plan.
Sounds like a plan.
And this is unlike the backhoe, this is a routine kind of planned purchase, you know.
So
I'll make a motion that we approve the purchase of the Western Star truck and Viking plow combo for $214,391 from ATG of Westminster.
could you add Vermont state contract number? Because that would be.
It's under Vermont state contract 43586.
43586?
Yep.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Tom and Claude. All in favor, say aye. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night, guys.
Yeah.
Stop staring area farmers.
Yeah.
I was up doing fencing, and next thing you know, this big pickup truck with dualies, open tinted windows, and I'm up there, and I'm, what the hell?
So road foreman. All right, thanks.
Okay. Moving on. Sorry, there's some paperwork.
There's a lot happening in the packet.
This is the light reading section.
Exactly. I anticipated you read this word for word.
Friends of the Yeah. Okay, the next item, actually, next two items refer to the change of hands of the childcare center in Four Corners, but let's start first with the reports that have come back from Clay Point Associates.
Yep.
John, do you want to step us through those three separate reports?
Sure, I will, but I just want to make a point of clarity. We did this as due diligence as property owners, unrelated to the private transaction that is taking place between private parties. There's been some muddying of the waters here, right? We are not associated.
We're renting the building, we want to make sure we're renting a safe building.
Correct.
For whoever rents it.
That is correct. Yeah, okay.
Well, just the additional, the next item is a lease, and our lease is with the new tenant. It has nothing to do, we're all for continuing the daycare. The importance of the daycare in town is undeniable, but we are the building owner, and we're doing due diligence, and that's what we've been doing.
I'm assuming these reports are all shared with the prospective tenants.
They have been, correct. So,
John,
so going through them, we'll go as they go. So the first report you had in your packet was the lead report, and if you read in the cover sheet, they talk about an amount less than 1 unless an amount less than equal to 1.0 or lower is an acceptable rate. And if you go through the report, you'll see that largely everything on the interior of the building is well below that 0 or below 1. There was some lead paint detected on the exterior of the building, basically on all 4 sides of the structure. At the very end of the lead report, you will see. So some of the cornerboard, soffit, fascia.
What page are you on?
I'm on page 35 of the lead-based paint testing data sheet. All the ones that are highlighted in red.
Right.
So again, those are areas that most of the trim, right? So something that is outside the building, so there's a benefit of have it. It's not easily accessible to any children or staff. Something that we should still look at taking care of by a qualified professional if when we have the building repainted.
I don't know if my memory serves me well, or it just wasn't on the board, but that building was painted.
Somewhat recently.
It was.
Correct.
But if it's
Less than 10
outside,
years ago.
it's not accessible, buddy.
Right.
It's not.
It's not something that we need
It
to.
needs to be.
It is not something that we need to take care of immediately, right? We are not under order to take care of that right
If
now.
there's any chipping or loose paint, then we should just
Correct.
proactively
Correct.
fix it.
Correct. Right.
I'm under the understanding that there's lead paint, like removal. When they scrape the paint, they have to have certain
Yeah.
coverage on the ground.
Right. Yeah, we couldn't.
Cleaning up, it has to be brought to a specific location.
Right.
You would know about that.
Right. Yeah, we can't just have the building
Right.
repainted.
And that is something that every town has to go through.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's just
It's not a
part of
Right.
business.
Exactly. But to Jim's point, it's all on the outside. It's all non-accessible to
It's on the side.
kids.
They would have to, a flake would have to fall off, hit the ground, a child would have to pick it up and eat it.
Right.
But it's apparently safe.
It is.
It's been
Yeah.
tested,
Yes.
and so I think
Yep.
we should move forward with fixing it, painting it, adjusting it, whatever we need to do.
Yeah. So again, no immediate need to take care of that, but something to be aware of as we see the paint start to deteriorate over time. So from a lead perspective, that is positive news. Good news. Sorry, I'll not use the word positive. The asbestos report is a little more difficult to work your way through. Most of it, if you're going through the tables in the report, you'll see it says ND, so non-detectable. There were a few areas though where it was detected, and then at the very last page, there's no page numbers. So table 2 and table 3 of the report of the asbestos lists where they found where things came back positive for asbestos. Again, largely where we thought we might see them. Things like the boiler room door, which is not accessible to kids. There's some insulation hanging on that door. Yep.
Page 5, table 1. There's a 2% and a 6%.
Yes.
Is that, so the vinyl floor and a sink,
Yep.
those are positive?
Those are positive, and those show up in table 2 and table 3,
Okay, so it's good.
which are basically the summary tables of everything else that was in the packet there. So again, these are things that we need to take care of. With asbestos, the best course of action is to do nothing unless it is kind of friable. So if it's flooring, it is to cover the flooring with, there was some of the asbestos on the boiler room door would have to have professionally removed and taken care of. But again, it's relatively small areas. So
you have a 130 square foot floor, we have to pre-cut.
right. Right. And things like sinks, if we replace the sink, number 9 there in table 2, by replacing that sink, we could, remove the asbestos from that space.
But these are all small projects.
Correct. Correct.
So how does that look moving forward? What's the next step there?
So the next step is we start to just kind of chip away at these projects as we're doing. That was another bad choice in words. We're not going to chip away at the asbestos containing materials. We're going to replace these things So we'll see a significant increase in the amount of like maintenance costs at the facility in the short term, but then long term, everything will be, safe and fully compliant. But it's worth noting right now, we are not out of compliance or under order to take care of these things. But as property owners, we want to do the right thing here.
And the people that are the buyers and the sellers of the building notified, obviously.
The prospective tenants are aware of these reports, yes.
The tenants.
Yep. Yep. No, it's fine.
You could also, a firm that specializes in mitigation, you could ask them to come in and get suggestions from them.
Okay.
Because they do the testing. I can give you some names of some folks that do it. But this is pretty easy stuff.
Right, so again, to Tom's point, this is pretty small and relatively easy thing. So again, it's good news. It's good news to have the information and know where it is, but also good news in that none of these are kind of red flag projects.
Is it ever closed?
Is it ever closed?
So daycare center, is it ever like on vacation? Is there ever a period of time?
Right, so it would be a challenge, right? So right now when Rob does work there, it's often being done early in the morning, right? But it's something we'd have to consider if
it's a reasonable sized project, you could have it done over a weekend.
Right.
Friday night.
Right, exactly.
Setup takes a while.
Holiday.
John, this is the third item.
Third is the radon test that were completed. Again, this was a kind of a repeat when the prospective tenant had gone in and hired a private building inspector. They had done some radon tests. This was just confirming those results. Radon was all within the acceptable levels. I think as has been discussed a little bit, less than 4 is the acceptable limit. A lot of the results came in, between 3.0 and 3.8. So I think, making an investment in increased air circulation and venting in the below grade space would be worthwhile. But again, nothing there that is going to prevent the use or occupancy of that space. So again, good news.
And if you put in a little HRV system, it would be.
Yeah, get some better air circulation in there.
Get fresh air in.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to go to a sub slab.
Yeah, those aren't even that expensive.
Right, and go ahead.
No.
And in talking with the prospective tenants, they're also willing to make some of these investments as well, or work with the town in these. It is not my understanding that they expect these actions to be taken care of before they move into the building.
Well, let me lead us right into the next item. We have a copy of the lease, which has language to cover some of those and defines and who needs to notify who should work be done. I believe our intent tonight is to, at a very high level, make sure we're comfortable with the lease, and then give the go-ahead to John to actually deliver it to the new tenant and whatever final negotiation has.
Right. So they have seen a copy of this as well, the prospective tenants as well. So there was no kind of questions. The only question I had was on the term, which was kind of, what started this whole conversation maybe 6 or 8 months ago. So this has the language that was recommended by the town attorney in sections 7, 8, and 9. Again, lead-based paint and lead hazard testing and management, asbestos testing and management, and the duty to notify and cooperate. This was all recommended language by the attorney. The other piece that went along with the recommendation was to have a waiver form for parents. That was not included. I think there was some concern about what that might mean for the actual business itself.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And we cannot fully ever absolve ourselves of the liability of the space.
The attorney does not think that necessary.
The attorneys put together something that essentially is a waiver, but also the second sentence of that was you can never be free of, full responsibility or liability from this building.
We can do a waiver, but that doesn't solve.
The waiver would,
It's not gonna do anything.
might make us potentially feel better, but it's not actually gonna, stand up.
John, can you speak to two important things? This lease we're moving toward a 3-year lease, but on the first 3 years,
Right, so that's the question. So again,
Can we go to the section, let's just,
Yep.
can be a little more specific, where are we? On the lease.
On the lease.
We're on the term, is that what you're talking about
Yes.
right now? Yeah.
right, so it would be, right now, the leases are, both with the Hartland Co-op and traditionally with Four Corners have been yearly leases that come to an end on June 30th of every year. I would like to keep it that way just for kind of knowing when we need to be doing things and not having these kind of off-cycle leases. So again, the proposed date in here is June 30th of 2028, which is 2.5 years, just slightly more. If they are open to that, I don't know what their feedback on that date is going to be. If they wanted to move until June of 2029 to give themselves that assurance that 3 years seem to be important to them.
Those two, I think 1 year was just a problem.
Right.
2 and 3-4 years shouldn't be a major.
So I would like to keep it as at June of 2028 and go from there.
I would agree, but I think we ought to have an annual price increase.
So the current rent essentially covers the taxes.
Correct. No, and they do their own utilities.
They do their own utilities. Right. Yep. And we're right now, the prospective tenant and I are working on kind of a very light memorandum of understanding about who's doing what in terms of maintenance.
But we're technically on the hook for most maintenance, and we know we need to put a new roof on that building.
Correct.
In addition to making these repairs.
so day-to-day maintenance.
Yeah, day-to-day. Interior maintenance, they wanted, there was a kind of a play structure built into one of the rooms. They're going to take that out. They want to recover some of the baseboard, heating systems. Like they're aware, they're willing to do that on their own, at their own expense. But the larger things, like the roof, for example.
I think the hard part is the rent. Covers the taxes, it doesn't cover.
But this is fixed.
Right. So we could add language in there to say annually in July,
July 1st.
we'll revisit the rent agreement.
They just put an increase in for each.
Yeah, I mean, the 10.8 could be the base amount, and then future rent would be predicated on the property taxes.
Yeah, well, I mean, you could do that or a 5% increase, so,
Well, whatever, but
makes it easy.
our taxes have been going up more than 5%.
True.
In some years they may,
Right.
so if their responsibility is for the taxes and we're picking up all the other stuff, then we'll just have them pay the taxes. And you can put a language in there that,
If you can get some language that's simple enough.
yeah, I think it's simple.
Yep, we can work with that and come to an agreement there. It does seem in talking with them that they have quite a bit of work ahead of them in terms of licensing with the state and ownership, kind of change in occupancy. So, this is not something that even if we approve the lease tonight, we're not going to see a new sign hung outside the building immediately.
Well, that's a good point. Is it really an October lease, or is the date going to change?
Right, so I think that what I would like tonight is to approve the concept of the lease when leaving the dates out of it. And so if we approve the concept of the lease, when they figure all that out between the two private parties in the state of Vermont licensing, we can sign that lease and be ready to go.
And we could have the lease effective when they get all their licenses. And it might give us some time to bring in a mitigator to look at it, and maybe there is something we want to do before we transfer.
Before we transfer. Yeah.
I mean, there's no hurry here, really. Right? Well,
There's a hurry.
If they have a lease in front of them.
Correct.
They know that.
Correct.
We're gonna move forward.
I think what I could do, I can make a motion, right, basically puts him in charge of
Yeah, he can
finishing the
negotiate.
negotiation.
Yep.
Right.
So I'd like to make a motion that we authorize the town manager to finish negotiating the lease with the Windsor Early Childhood Education Center, provided that he add language for annual price increases and determines the effective date of the lease.
Can we, just, one friendly amendment is a multi-year lease since in the past?
Multi-year lease is written.
Okay.
Can you just say it one more time?
I highly doubt it.
Had to ask a lot.
So I would like to make a motion that we authorize the town manager to finish the negotiation of the lease between the town of Hartland and the Windsor Early Childhood Education Center, including the term and annual price increases.
Did you say multi-year?
The term, yeah. He's in charge of the term.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Trace. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion passes. Looks like we're ready to take one more step forward to getting this done.
Right.
Thank you, everyone. Okay, moving on to town manager update.
Sure. So this morning, well, let me back up. We've had a number of comments and concerns raised by residents regarding the Four Corners intersection, the Maysale Brownsville Road, and Route 12 intersection. I met this morning with staff from V-Trans and the Regional Planning Commission to talk about traffic calming, what options exist. So with a formal request by, through authorization by the Select Board, I can write a letter to the engineering team at V-Trans suggesting that they do a formal study of the intersection. It'd be helpful to outline kind of one of the steps that we are taking as an interim, which would be potentially reaching out to the adjacent property owners to see those who have the kind of taller ornamental grasses and parking, to see if we can work with them. They will do that study, bring it to the State of Vermont kind of Traffic Board, who can make recommendations in terms of, do we want to, decrease the speed limit, push the 35 zone out further, kind of coming into Four Corners and leaving Four Corners as you're going to Woodstock. We could do, we can make the request that certain areas become no parking zones to decrease kind of to increase potential sight lines there. So that would be a recommendation that if the board wanted to take that route, we make that request. That's gonna start the process. There's gonna be no immediate solution there.
The request doesn't cost us anything.
The request does not cost us anything. There's no cost to any of these things. Correct.
We don't have that as an agenda item, so I'm not sure how.
Well, so
You should just bring it. Yeah.
right. So this just happened today. This meeting just happened today. So what I can do is I can write a letter and we can bring it up to the board at the next meeting, and then with your authorization, submit that to V-Trans.
And maybe start to have a discussion with some of the property owners on that corner.
Yep.
I think there are some simple things that we can do, because I've started to go that way now, and people could cut down some of the grasses.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, we did.
But also, this is on a state highway, right?
It is on a state highway.
This is not part of our.
It's a state highway that it is intersected by town roads.
No, my point being is, we may want to do something, the state of Vermont may not want to.
That is.
And so we may need to try to come up with a local approach that doesn't affect Route 12.
There may also be the opposite effect, where the state wants to utilize their footage from the center line of the road to make sure that things are clear for the intersections.
They have studies, they call them high accident locations, HALs.
Yeah.
And one of the first things they're going to look at is that a HAL? Is that a high accident location? And if it's not, it kind of goes down in the priority.
Right. So in this meeting, they said, if you can show that you're taking actions, also that will help the case to, when it goes to the state board for their recommendations. So for example, if we are talking to the property owners about cutting the ornamental grasses, they might take that into account when they're talking about kind of lengthening the 35 zone through there.
My question is, do you need some authorization from us, or can you just do this?
I can do it. I think, so it would be good.
This can just be more of an update.
Right.
I like the idea that we're discussing it tonight, draft something, and then we all put our signatures on it.
Yeah, I think we need,
But-
this may not be as simple as we think, and we need to support John.
Right, it's gonna-
What he's doing.
Right, so it's gonna take time.
Yeah.
Just for the sake of conversation, two things that have come up that were talked about today. One, the idea of putting a blinking yellow light there was kind of roundly not shot down, but discouraged, and that did not receive positive feedback from V-Trans staff. They're not effective and they're not big fans of them. Something the town could do if any of these things don't work is purchase those kind of blinking signs, speed limit 35, you're going 57, for example, and put them, as you're on both sides as you're approaching the intersection. We can put them on a state road. It's a town cost though, and to own them, to buy them and maintain them. But that's, if A, B, and C don't work, that's kind of the next step.
Okay, well, thank you for letting folks out there for the intersection, and I think we really need to go.
Yep.
Is this a comment on this topic?
May I?
I asked you, you shook your head yes, so yes, please.
Would V-Trans be for a four-way stop signs?
So I don't envision that being high on their list.
We have it out here.
Right. So I think what we would do, the letter that, if I understand the process correctly, we write a letter that says we would like to see the 35 zone extended both directions and this area made a no parking zone. Right. We submit the request, they review it, and then do the study to see if it's warranted. I think if we I suspect after this meeting, if we came in with we want to see a four-way stop, it might not be as well received as, taking a slower approach to it. Yeah.
Can I make a public comment? Please, thank you. I drive that home every single day and to work every single day. And I think one of the big things is the grass that's growing past Mace Hill when you're coming on Route 12, because you can't see cars coming from Mace Hill and going on to Mace Hill. And I think that would already make a big difference.
Yeah, and the parked cars are also, okay, well, we've got things started, so
Yep.
Thank you for everyone's comments. Let's move on to.
Yep. So Phil mentioned it earlier, came up in the minutes, the Planning Commission is holding their public hearing on the town plan on October 22nd. I've reached out to Chico with JM, and I talked with Race today to see if they're going to be able to cover the meeting. I haven't heard back from Chico, but it sounds like it's a possibility just in chatting with Race.
Yeah.
So that is in process.
What time is that?
But it's scheduled for 6:30. But again, this is just the Planning Commission public hearing, then the plan gets passed off to the select board for review, and we'll do our own public hearing as well. Or you all will do your own public hearing as well. I heard back from the lights, their 8 to 12 week lead time was accurate, unfortunately, so we're not anticipating delivery on the intersection lights until the first week in December, which is actually 13 weeks. I've reached back out to them to see if there is kind of prep work that we can be doing between now and then to see if we can still do the installation immediately when we get the lights in December.
You can figure this out, but how do they get installed? Is there some network? Because it gets cold sometimes. It's more difficult.
Right, so they had mobilization costs included in that, like they do the installation and the initial setup. So that's the question: is what can we be doing now?
But I'm more concerned, like, does cold weather, like if you have to do some network,
Yep.
does cold weather put that on hold?
Right. I hope the answer to that is no, but
Or if you don't have to do it, then that's fine.
right.
As Mr. Tracy does.
They have heating blankets and things.
They can build a little.
Put it in instead of their cost, so they would they would have to use, like, they would have to use, so dig it, as long as there's no frost line, they jackhammer it out if they did.
Yep.
If there was an emergency, they use one, but if it becomes a lot not cost effective for them, they probably would say they use this line, I guess.
So appropriation requests went out last week as we start the process for the town report. We did get feedback from the fire department that the process of collecting signatures every year can be onerous. 134 signatures, or whatever it might be. Can the select board take action to remove that barrier to things like the rescue squad and the fire department, so they don't have to collect signatures every year they want to raise their appropriation requests?
That's a question for the lawyer.
Yeah,
The answer is yes.
that's my thought too.
Right.
I mean, we all want to do that, but now can we legally do it?
Right. So that's happening as well. I just wanted to bring it to your attention.
So they would come in, make a proposal. This would mean the lawyer says we could put it on the, as an article. They would make a proposal, we try to understand it, and then approve it as an article.
At town meeting as opposed to as an appropriation. Right. So that'd be my recommendation for both the rescue squad and the fire department. So that's the question that's going to the attorney. The audit reports were on your, right in front of you. So that'll be on the agenda for the next, those just came in today. That'll be on the agenda for the next meeting. Hopefully we can get the auditor to zoom into the meeting to walk us through it. But again, to quote the auditor, it's somewhat boring and there's nothing of note, which I thought was great news. So that's the positive feedback on the audit.
There's no findings.
There's no
management letter.
No, everything checked out really well. Just as an update, there's a community breakfast this Saturday for folks who are able at 9. I think just talk about recycling.
Fine. Is it the final?
I'm pretty sure it's the 11th, so this is Saturday. And this Wednesday and Thursday, I will be out of the office, just for your awareness, at the VLCT Town Fair, and then the following day is the Town and City Manager Conference. Both of those are held in Burlington, so I'll be out Wednesday and Thursday this week. And that is it for me.
We're skipping the golf.
No, golf was earlier this summer. We golf in the spring and we meet for lunch in the fall.
Okay, we have future agenda items we'll go through in a moment, but we also have the executive session. I'll ask about correspondence. Future agenda items, we just talked about the Four Corners intersection, so we'll look to reinforce that and move that, keep that moving. North Hartland covered bridges, the new year budget, the town plan review. I think we need to begin to make sure that we are looking at the plan and be prepared for any comments that we may want to do before we receive it. The town highway and public policy, we just earlier this evening said we need to get that done, so let's make sure, I'll make sure that it's a priority. Capital plan, I'm not sure where we are.
It just needs to, right, there are two things out there, both the highway policy and the capital plan have kind of lingering out there with very small actions needed. So we'll see both those on the next agenda, I hope.
The capital plan is really, I think, for example, this building is one of the big things. We're going to do a lot of repair work here.
Right.
That needs to be planned out. And that kind of leads us into how much do we have left to invest in Quechee Road. Right. Which I feel like we're behind on right now because we haven't had any public information sessions
on the Quechee Road.
6 months away from the town meeting.
Right. So yes, we will keep that on the agenda, and I agree with you that we thought the fall was far away when we were planning.
If I may, I think some items that are going to have budgetary impact, we should move it away from future agenda items and make it an actual agenda item.
Yes.
So, for instance, I think I would like to put to bed the North Hartland School. So that's left the future agenda item, because I think we should discuss that at town meeting. I think as Jim said, I don't even know what we're doing on the Quechee Road, but I think we need to do something for town meeting. There's one other thing I was thinking about.
Cemeteries,
I'm sorry?
cemeteries.
No, I'm not, it wasn't so much the cemetery stuff, but it's just, so I think we need to be prepared so we can provide this information. And then some of these things have budgetary implications.
Right.
And at town meeting, are we going to be introducing the concept that we'll be working on for over the next year, the planning commission, Two Rivers and ourselves on the bylaws?
I don't envision that as a town meeting discussion point at this moment. But certainly, we need to revisit the North Hartland School. I agree. And the Quechee Road is kind of the big question mark out there in terms of how much of the unencumbered fund balance do we want to use, if any of it, to approach the Quechee Road, and what is the approach, whether it's a single year or a phased approach to tackling the road. The challenge, just on that note, the challenge we have is that our budget season does not necessarily align with the school's budget season. So we can set what we anticipate, we can set our budget. The school could come in with a significantly higher or lower number, which might have an impact on what we would choose to do.
So are we taking bonding off the table?
So at this point for the Quechee Road, I don't know. I don't know. We could potentially, just for the sake of conversation, have about $1 million in available money if we don't do any paving next year, aside from the Quechee Road.
So I personally think at some point, we need to bond for it. It's going to be the amount. So if nothing else, I think we should at least introduce the idea at town meeting that this is what we want to do, maybe just have some numbers. The other thing it seems as though interest rates are going to be coming down. It may become a more, advantageous financially to take out a bond. But again, I'm just wondering.
I'm thinking back to the capital plan. My brain is telling me there's a $4 million bond number in the capital.
There is.
So that's why we've got to kind of get the other projects in there to see how much money we've left over. Maybe it's 4 million, maybe it's.
We're going to start budgeting in November, right?
Right. It's right soon. So we've gotten, department budgets are starting to trickle in. We've gotten BJ's.
I'm stopping myself from making comments and diving into the budget because there's certain topics that I think we are coming around that we're going to.
My point, though, is instead of having it, let's just try to be more proactive with discussing this stuff. That's all.
Okay.
If anybody's written on the Quechee Road lately, something is going to be done sooner than later.
Yes.
Yeah, I just reported.
V&D hasn't started yet.
Oh, that's a good, thank you for mentioning that. Sorry, one more town manager update. D&D is starting work on the ditching. I don't have the date, but it's I believe it's next week or the week after. We ran into, somebody made the comment that fall was farther away than we anticipated. It's here. They had a lot of sand to make in Hull, but they did agree to the work, so it's happening in the next couple of weeks as well.
Okay, where?
So they have a plan with pathways in terms of where they're going to be doing the work.
Where is where?
Can we have that next meeting? Where is?
I guess sure. I'm a little confused by the question.
I don't have the pathways report in front of me. I just want to know so I can alert my neighbors, what section of the Quechee Road is going to be.
In essence, they're doing basically from the town line, various sections all the way down the road. So, it could be 100 yards here. They're going to skip a half mile, do a half mile.
What I thought, conceptually, I thought they were working on in one area.
Yeah.
So lots of misinformation. I'm just trying to.
Yeah, no, we'll try to get as much public information as we can, to make sure that folks are aware. They'll have flagging crews out there as
So
well.
we have a lot of rich topics coming up under future agenda items.
Oh, we got lots of money.
Yeah, yeah, rich topics. It's
So moving on,
Good choice of
is there any
words.
correspondence?
the only correspondence was the audit that you had in front of you. That just came in today.
Great. We do have an executive session to revisit the previous Merritt-Campbell request.
That's correct.
So, Mr. Riley, can you lead us through?
I don't have my laptop though, so I'm gonna be challenged with minutes.
Let me see. How's this?
So I'll make a motion that we enter executive session under 1 V.S.A. 313A6 to discuss the Merritt-Campbell request.
I'll second the motion. All in favor, say aye.
Hi.
Motion passes. Okay.
Yes, there will be an action. Sorry.
40-year-old trailer.
We're-
Sure, yeah, I mean.
All right, we're live.
Okay.
So we just returned to the meeting. I'd like to make a motion to approve Merritt-Campbell request for $1,000.
I'll second the motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved.
Yeah.